Hey guys, it's M4J here and welcome back to M4J Transport here on OpenTTD. Today we are working with two forms of transport, neither of which are trains. So if you are here wanting trains, unfortunately I'm going to have to let you down today, but next week there will be trains. And in fact there is a new railway built at the end of today's episode as well, for those of you that do want to see that. So, what are we working with today? Well, we're working with buses and we are working with aircraft. First and foremost, buses. I mentioned this already in this series, I believe, but we are completely overhauling the bus network in and around Guard City. And we are starting that very slowly, as with most things so far in this series, but we are going to pick the pace up in the next few episodes as well. We're working on 3 main bus hubs today, which might sound quite big, but when you think how big Guard City is, 3 main bus hubs isn't actually that big. The 3 main bus hubs we're working with today are Guard City St. Peter Station, Guard City St. Michael Station, and Slenston Station. Slenston, of course, being the terminus of the Northwestern HLR branch, as well as the overground connection and the West Winds line connection. And it's actually starting to turn into a bit like Stratford in that respect, in terms of how many services are actually going to be calling at Slenston, which is why it made sense to actually have I'm trying to find my words. It's why it made sense to have Slenston as a little bit of a hub. And I use the word hub because we are operating with feeder buses now on the network. And feeder buses, for those of you that don't know, if you have something like a metro station in quite a built-up area, but is the only metro station in that area, then you have what's known as feeder bus systems. So they would they're bus lines essentially that call at this hub as their main port of call, but then they also go and serve some of the other suburbs in and around the area. So for example, in London, Wimbledon station is a hub. It's an interchange for the Southwestern. I nearly said Southwestern Main Line, but I don't think that's true. Southwestern Railway runs through Wimbledon though. It's also a major station on the Sutton Loop on the Thameslink network. It's also the main western terminus of the Croydon trams. It's the southwestern terminus of the District Line, I want to say. I think a District Line branch goes to Wimbledon. Let me check my map. Oh, bloody adverts. I hate adverts. It's on the underground. It's on the underground. Please tell me it's on the underground. Yes. It's the southern terminus of the District Line. And it's also eventually, hopefully one day, going to be a major station on Crossrail 2 as well. The Chelsea Hackney line, it's currently called. Also known as Crossrail 2. It's going to be running from the northeast of London down to the southwest, and Wimbledon will be where it surfaces from its core section in the current plans. That could be subject to change, of course. So that is a major interchange. It's also got a bus station, and then that bus station has loads of different lines that serve various different parts of London, but it also serves as a feeder hub for areas around Wimbledon, so Merton, Sutton, Richmond, Kingston, I want to say, but I think Kingston's a bit further out. But there will be bus lines that serve all of those areas and bring passengers to Wimbledon, where they can then catch trains for onward journeys. And that's what we've got here. So Slenston is one of those main hubs. It's a feeder hub, whereas St. Peter and St. Michael are more of bus station hubs themselves. So you'll be able to catch buses from there to other parts of Guard City. So the example places that I'm using at the moment, I'm trying to read on the screen, but the screen is quite small. Previous screen's quite small, but you'll be able to see some of the stop names that the bus lines call at. Essentially, the entire western side, southwestern and central western sides of Guard City are now covered by at least one bus line, which was always the plan for this episode. And it was a bit slapdash. I kept having to downgrade what this episode was going to be initially, and then I upgraded it again. So initially I was going to redo all the bus lines in and around Guard City. Then I realised very quickly that that was not going to be possible. So I changed it to be GSP, GSMI, GSG, and GSJ, with some buses also calling it Bartholomew Square. Then I realised that that was going to be too much to do, so I downgraded it again to just GSP and GSMI, with some buses also calling it GSG. That then became too little, so I added Slenston to the final result as well. So there are some bus lines that do call at GSG today. I think actually it might be Halliday Circus that they call at instead, which is also one of these feeder hubs. Halliday Circus is a major stop on the HLR and the Guard City Metro, so it made sense to actually have some of the buses use that as a feeder hub also. I've got to stop saying I do apologise for umming and ahhing. It's mainly because I've recorded the second half of this video before I recorded the first half of this video in terms of audio. So the video you're watching at the moment was recorded 4 or 5 weeks before you've actually seen it, but the audio I'm recording the day before you see it. Whereas the second part of the video, which will be coming up shortly, I recorded just before I recorded this bit of audio, so it's all a bit topsy-turvy as to which order this episode is in. A lot of my episodes will be like that in the future, because I've recorded time lapses which I'm inserting in various points, but then I'm also recording live builds and live talking and things like that. But I did want to talk about feeder buses, and I think I've kind of covered what they are. I personally don't use buses that often. I'm lucky enough to live close enough to the local station that I can, well, I say that I get a lift to the station most of the time, and then when I get to London I take the tube and then I walk the rest of the way. So I don't use buses that often. I think I should use buses more often, to be honest, because they are quite handy. But the main buses in London, and in fact where I live, are the new Routemaster type bus, which is something that I did want to do in this map as well. I'm going to have a look to see what other bus new GRFs there are, because I don't think there are many for the UK that don't already have vehicles that exist in other new GRFs, if that makes sense. So there's a few crossovers, which is what I had in the railways as well for the last map, which I ended up removing the duplicates. So with this, as you know, the new M4J network is currently dated in and around the mid-1970s. So we've got EMUs that were designed and built back as far as the 50s, but we've also got things like the HSTs. For these buses, I think actually some of them were designed in the 80s. The ones you see on screen currently I don't end up using, or I did end up using. It took me 3 attempts to record this time-lapse as well, because I used various different vehicles and also various different services. If you go on the service schedule sheet and go on the Guard City Buses tab, what you see there is up to date and current, which might not necessarily tally up with what you see me create now. So it's a little bit higgledy-piggledy, as I say, a bit topsy-turvy and very professionally done, as you can imagine, from M4J. But I'm going to try and explain it as best I can. I'm also very wary of the time, because this episode is quite long. It might not seem like it. I mean, you guys will see by now, by looking at the time code, how long this episode actually is, but this section of the episode is quite short in comparison. So I think in the end I settled on a single-decker bus design and a double-decker bus design, both from the 60s, 70s, 80s era. As we go through to modern times, which will be quite a ways in the future, we will start to upgrade to the new Routemaster type buses and bendy buses and vehicles like that. So the capacity at the moment on the Guard City bus network is quite small. I've tried to design the schedule to accommodate that, but also to accommodate for future growth. So there is a strategy behind it. I think I might do some like sub episodes, like in this case 7.5, where I talk you through the timetable a little bit more. So it's not going to be a main series episode, but for those of you who are interested in the behind the scenes, how did I create this schedule kind of thing, I might make special videos actually explaining that, because it does take some explaining. Again, what's new about this series between the Majeffries network and the M4J network is the delving into realism, trying to make it as realistic as possible, and that includes things like speed limits and timetables. So really breaking down the timetable into its bare bones, not just the in-game timetable, but also on the service schedule sheet, and explaining how I chose the service patterns and the stop patterns and how I calculated ticks per minute and things like that. It's too much to explain right now, and it's also not enough to explain in a main series video. So I will start making some sub-series videos, as well as looking at vehicles going around the route. But like I do in my Cities in Motion series, where there'll be an episode just following a route, a vehicle on its route. I think I might do that for this as well. So there might be a 7.5. I'm not guaranteeing it right now. I might wait until we get to like 10 or 11 before I start doing sub episodes. But we will come back and we will look at these buses, and we will explore how exactly they work in and around Guard City. Should also say, this episode is like a test bed, this part of the episode, as to how the buses are going to work. Now I've got my head around it a little bit more, and I've shown you guys the bare bones of what I've been working on. I'm going to go away off camera and create some more service schedules from GSG, Halliday Circus, Bartholomew Square, GSJ, and all that kind of thing, so that when we come back in a future episode, the bus network will already be done. And in fact, in 2 episodes time, we are redoing the tram network of Guard City, so hopefully by then I'll have the bus network completely done. But that's it for the first part of this episode. Thank you for watching so far. Stay tuned though, because we're about to leave the ground and get airborne. Alright, so that's part 1 out of the way, or part A out of the way. We've redone some of the buses. I think I've actually made some tweaks to some of these lines, since I should be honest at this point and say that this is part 2 of the episode, and it was recorded about 4 or 5 weeks maybe since part 1 was recorded, so I'm going by memory from a lot of this. But we've done most of the buses now, from GSP down here, GSMI here, serving all of these areas here, and of course Slenston down here. And hopefully, if I remember correctly, when I do the voiceover for part A, which I haven't done yet, I will talk about the conversation topic, which is on the episode plans, which is feeder buses. So if I haven't, let me know, and I'll do it in the next episode. So I say part 2. Originally this was meant to be 2 different episodes. Episode 7 was supposed to be doing the feeder buses. Episode 8 was supposed to be doing what I'm about to do in a second. But I'm actually wanting to get on with the series a bit quicker, and not just focus on one thing an episode, but actually focus on 2 or 3 different things, and just try and get things moving a little bit quicker. Those of you that watched episode 6, you'll see that I put a comment below that video, I think it was episode 6, might have been 5, saying that the series was starting a little bit slower than I perhaps would have wanted it to. So we're going to try and pick things up now, and I realise now that me talking is also making it go slower than I originally wanted it to, so I'm going to start speeding things up here as well. So part 2 of this episode is about airports. We're going to be building additional airport terminals at some of our existing airport sites in and around Guard City. And then we are going to also start adding some airports across the map. And we're going to start building, I think it's 3 airports that we've got over at Bar City. I keep going to use WASD to move around. That doesn't really work, does it? First and foremost, over here at Great Winfield, which is probably going to be one of the biggest airports. So in London, Heathrow is the biggest airport, not just in London, not just in the UK, not just in Europe, but also in the world, in terms of number of passengers, I think is what it is. It's not the largest in terms of aircraft. It's actually, it might be one of the largest in terms of aircraft, but it's one of the largest in terms of passenger numbers. No idea how that happened, to be honest, because I think there are better airports around Europe. You know, Charles de Gaulle, it seems, when I saw it in pictures, seems to be bigger and seems to be more capable of carrying more passengers. And also, for the same reason Disneyland Paris was built in Paris, Charles de Gaulle is more central in terms of European geography than Heathrow is. Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam is also massive. It has 6 runways, one of which is built about 2 miles away from the terminals. So that's a candidate as well. I'm not going to dwell too much on that though. I'm going to look at this a bit more. So here we have Guard City Great Winfield Airport, except this is going to be West Terminal. That's what the WT is going to stand for. And then somewhere over here, let's see, Hub International, maybe. I'm tempted to do that one. You might have noticed I've also put the date back. I did say at the start of the series I wasn't going to do that, but I have now done it because I'm a hypocrite. I might use this one actually, because I think Terminal 2 for most of these airports doesn't necessarily need to be as big as Terminal 1. It's going to take less passengers, so we might as well utilize a slightly smaller terminal size. I'm just measuring down one. And down one again. There we go. So you are going to be Guard City, Great Winfield Airport, East Terminal, ET. You will phone home. Alright. Now, one of my plans, and I think this was mentioned by George de Silva. I'm not 100% sure on that, actually. One of my plans originally was to extend the HLR down to the airports, but I think that's actually quite a long way to go for what is essentially a light rail system. So what I might do instead is, there is a metro, there it is. I'm pointing at the screen, you can't see where I'm pointing. There is a metro line that comes along down here, and it does link up here at Sundhatten. I think if I create a second line, whoops, I'm not using my mouse, I'm using my trackpad for this, and as you can see, I'm more than used to using it. Right, this is the Great Western. Here we go. So what my plan was to split the platforms or split the metro trains, sorry, not the platforms, split the metro trains, and actually have a new spur with a terminus here, but then also immediately connect up over here. Although now I've built that, I feel like it might be a bit difficult to get the line to curve around here. It could be possible. I mean, it is possible, but then is it also smart? That's the question. And the answer to that is, I don't know. Let's see, we've got one of the centre rail loops. That's the cross-city line, isn't it? I think, because, isn't there another junction somewhere? Is it on this section? I'm not sure if it is, actually. I think the section I'm thinking of is, yeah, it's down here. Because here's Rinston Airport, which is also going to get a new terminal built in this gap here. Because then you've got this nice roundabout. And as you can see, there's another metro line that does come down this way. And that connects up, in fact, just over here at Radeon. So I think if I build something like I've got with Radeon, maybe even here at Cheward, because I've got the junction almost ready built for that actually, and then come along that way. I like that idea. I like that idea a lot. I'm not going to build it now, but I am going to map it out. So is it from Cheward We'll have a station over here at East Town. There'll probably be another one midway. Fluffingford Hotel. And then over here at Trunley Market. And then East Terminal and West Terminal. Both will have bus hubs, feeder hubs, and both will have stations of various kinds. I like that. That's good. Right. So that is Great Winfield done. Now we're going to come back down this way, and we're going to do Rinston. So again, you are going to be Rinston Airport T1. So over at Great Winfield, we did East and West, which is kind of based on Gatwick, because Gatwick doesn't have Terminal 1, Terminal 2. It has North and South. So this is going to be the same, except it's going to... Great Winfield is the same, except it's East and West. This is going with the more conventional Heathrow approach, which is Terminal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Although there's no Terminal 1 at the moment, so it just goes 2, 3, 4, and 5, which I think is stupid. Although a couple of years ago there was no Terminal 2, so it went 1, 3, 4, and 5. I don't understand. It's to do with space saving. I think, I'm trying to remember which one it is. I think 2 is absorbing parts of 1, or something like that. I'm not 100% sure what the deal is or how it's working, but I think that's what's happening. It's a bit unusual. It is a bit unusual. Oh, noise concerns. Let me turn that off for a second. Alright, and we'll build it probably there. We'll leave noise off for now. We'll pin these as well. Again, I won't do all the road connections on camera. I'll do it off camera. Let me cancel that for a second so I can scooch over a little bit. So you're going to be Guard City, Rinston Airport T2. I think we might just use buses to link these up. Now the Terminal 1s, or the main terminals, are going to be used for the long haul flights. So for example, Guard City to Bar City will be using Terminal 1 for most of these airports. Although I haven't fully decided on a flight plan yet, I kind of have an idea as to what I want it to do. And then Terminal 2s are going to be used to link up some of the smaller airports in and around Guard City. So for example, Kenville, which is a very small airport, will have direct flights to Rinston T2, which will then connect with a bus to T1, which will then fly to Bar City, one of the airports over there. That's the plan. We will see how that works. What train are you? Oh, you are heading towards a depot. That's good. There's loads of the old overground trains that we still got to get rid of. You have to excuse me for being snuffly. I've got a bit of bunged up, I think is the probably the best way of saying it. I'm just full of all kinds of different illnesses at the moment. It's not pretty. I won't dwell on it too much. Okay. So here we've got Punfingford. Now, this was the one I was most looking forward to doing in terms of the space that I've got to build in, because I think Punfingford might have 3 terminals. Unfortunately, though, it's probably going to be the most difficult to do in terms of joining it all up, because what I wanted to do was have another spur somewhere over here, branch off, and come round and actually connect up to one of the other 2 terminals. We'll have to see on that. So, Terminal 2, let's rename this one first. So you're going to be T1. So Terminal 2, I think I'm going to build down here. Maybe even there. and have them directly in line with each other. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to move it a little bit further south. Like I say, we've got loads of room, so let's actually use it. Let's build it there. Okay, and you are going to be Guard City, Punfingford Airport, T2, and then we are going to have a T3, but it's going to be a smaller. I'm tempted to do just a small airport and have it as a commuter one. And I was going to build it in the middle, but again, let's utilize some of the space. Whoopsie doodle. Let's utilize some of the space that we've got. So I could build it over here, although I wanted to make sure that the runway is clear. So if I remove this, and actually maybe having them all in a line isn't the worst thing in the world. I have just thought of another idea. If I lift all the land up here, could I build it there? Or build it there, and then have Prafingford become Terminal 3. I mean, that could work. That could work quite well. So what I'm going to do is build it there. And then if I lower all the land here, we can then have some station platforms here, which then go directly south to T1, directly south again to T2, and then can connect up with the main line there. A bit like how Heathrow, the Piccadilly line, you can either go straight to Heathrow Central, which is 234, no, 2 and 3, not 234, or you could go around the loop to T4, or you can go straight on from 2 and 3 to 5. But you can't go from 4 directly to 5, you have to change, and you can't go directly from 5 to 4 because you have to change. There was another thing that you used to be able to do, then you couldn't do it, and then you could do it again. I think it was the loop, actually. I think it was when T5 opened, the loop, part of the loop was made bi-directional again. And that's just on the Piccadilly line. On TfL rail or Crossrail, it's a bit different as well, because you can't go to... I think it's, again, you can't go from 4 to 5 and 5 to 4, but you can go from either of those to Central and then out again. It's something along those lines. Alright, so you are going to be Guard City, Punfingford Airport, T3. And this is for the real short hopper flights, of which there might be some. I'm just trying to think actually of what aircraft we can have use this. Maybe this airport is too small, but we could upgrade it to like this size. There, that might work better. So we've got a long enough runway that we can have most normal flights, but it's not a massive airport. It's kind of like I guess it's like general aviation type aircraft would go from here. Like what are the smallest passenger types? Smallest passenger planes that we have. Things like this. 10, 10. Like something like that. Like little short hopper flights to other airstrips around the map. That sounds good. So again, from here, T2 will be flights up here to Warnbridge. Even though currently they go from T1, because T1 was the only one that existed, I'm going to move them to T2. And then T1 itself, where are we? Over here. T1 itself is going to be for main haul flights over to Bar City. Speaking of, we're now going to head over there ourselves. I probably should rename this on all of my service schedules. Actually, the service schedules I don't have to because we haven't got any that call these stations at the moment. But in the future, definitely, I'll have to rename that. Okay, I do like the idea of having this extra little like branch line thing as well, going up and down. Because then what I might do is either remove these platforms or use these for the Guard City Connect services, or Center Rail as it's otherwise known, that will then run down through the center core and into maybe even I've forgotten the name of the airport already. That's good, isn't it? The one we built just before this one. Let me zoom out again. Scroll over and remind myself what the name is. Oh, look at that lag. It's actually, and I should probably remove these because I've got all these displayed. It's a little bit better. Rinston. Guard City Rinston. I need to remember these names. It's really embarrassing that I keep forgetting the names. Alright, let's zoom right out. We're going to leave Guard City behind temporarily. And we're going to scooch on over to Greater Bar City, which is still a shell in comparison to what it's going to be when it's finished. I think Bar City is probably going to end up being bigger in terms of population, but Guard City is going to be bigger in terms of size, because you can already see how I've got these road layouts. I've learnt a lot of lessons from Guard City when it came to creating this. Alright, so the first airport is probably... Excuse me again, sniffling. Do apologise. First airport is probably going to be on one of the main lines that already exist. And this would be a good candidate, but it is right in the middle of Bar City still, which doesn't mean we can't do it, but it would be more difficult. That one is too... I think actually, yeah, for the first one, we'll build it over here. On this side of the tracks. So, hub. We haven't got Intercontinental unlocked yet, so it's going to have to just be an international. And hopefully that doesn't come back to bite us. I'm going to try and leave enough room to upgrade in the future. If need be. If the necessity requires it, essentially. So, I'm going to build it here, because I think it's an extra tile above and below. Something like that. So you are going to be Bar City, Rinfingley Airport, T1. Okay. And then T2, I'm tempted to build on this side of the tracks. And to actually make it the same size. Now if I lower all this land and then level all this land, that should enable me to build T2 somewhere over here. So you're going to be Bar City, Rinfingley Airport, T2. So these are the southern airports of Bar City. It actually gives this station more of a reason to exist now, because it doesn't quite serve the town of Rinfingley. It does a little bit over here, or it will now because of this connection here. And I will build a bus station over on this side, and also down in this gap here as well. And then maybe even a light rail link that bridges across the top between these two. So that's the southern one. Now the northern one. And I'm tempted again to... So there's the rapid transit. Now, where's the next station on the rapid transit? It's all the way over here somewhere, isn't it? I think it's actually too far away. Yeah, it's there. So I will build an airport over here still. We'll remove that. What's this station called? Fort... what's that? Bredborough Airport. It'll just be one terminal. And it will be... there. So we'll have some flights running from Bar City out to here. Might even have some from Guard City run out to here. I was going to do like Southend and Oxford Airport. I've tried to do in the past and put London in front of their name. So in this case it would be Bar City, but as you can see it's far too far away. If I follow this line here though, so Greater Bar City is this square box that you see on the screen now. So let's follow the rail line along, and it'll curve out and round this way. So somewhere, I think over here, whoops, zoom again. I think somewhere over here, I could build an airport out in the lake. So if I remove that, how wide is it? So from here outwards, one more. Do a bit of a land reclaiming. Actually one more again, because then I've got room to expand it to the north and to the south, and then I'll build the station one tile away here, as many platforms as necessary, and this will be Bar City, Riston Airport, and I've got 3 on my plan to build 3 airports around here, but I am struggling to think where the third would go unless we build one. So for example, maybe I zoomed out in when I didn't mean to. Maybe down here, Bruntberg, and we build it as a slightly smaller sized airport. So this would be like the London City Airport of the airports, or the Kenville Airport, if you will. Maybe we'll just go for the metropolitan sized one like that. And yeah, I don't think this town existed when I built the station. So if I build it like this, and then you can be Bar City, Bruntberg Airport. How are we doing time-wise? Nearly half an hour. Okay, it's not too bad. Okay, so that kind of works. So we've got 3 airports now in Bar City. I need to tick these off on the episode plans. Build additional airport terminals at Great Winfield, Pumpingford and Rinsden. Yes. Build 3 airports near to Bar City, connected to rail routes. Yes, sort of. Now we've got to do the final one, which is place additional airports across the map. So let's start off by looking at some of the connections that we've got. So Guard City now has 4 airports. Each one, besides Kenville, has at least 2 terminals. Bar City now has 3 airports, one of which has 2 terminals. So we can run direct long-haul flights now between these 2 cities. This map looks quite small when you zoomed right out like this. I'm also going to save the game really quick. Alright. So, An airport somewhere in the middle here would be good, and if you look, you can see the high-speed line runs right through here as well. And in fact, down here is where one of the main lines from Guard City terminates. So why not kill two birds with one stone and build an airport here? So this will currently have like a celestial name. Yeah, Rialta. Lenway Rialta. So we're going to Hub International, and we're going to build it probably a little ways away from the actual stations themselves. Somewhere like that. And you are going to be renamed to Lenway Rialta Airport. And again, that kind of gives this station a secondary reason to exist. The high-speed line, you could say it's gone quite a way without a station. But this bit here, I kind of just built it and didn't really think too much about it. And we've got the two connections that come into it, one from the north and one from the west. But besides that, there was no real reason for its existence. Whereas now I'd like to think there is a reason for its existence. And it's quite near to Denston as well, so we could even have, again, a light rail link maybe between Lenway and Denston. We'll see about that. So that's one. And this is pretty much smack bang in the middle of the map now, isn't it? Not quite. I think smack bang is around about here, which is the middle of a bridge. Let's go down south. Because again, I think there's a Parkway station, isn't there? Is it over here? There it is. Which is Kingston Parkway. So we're going to build an airport here as well. Like that. And then you are going to be renamed Kingston Airport Parkway. So that's another one done. And then if I come over this side and somewhere, I was going to build it here. Where's my cursor? Lost my cursor for a second there. I was going to build it over here where the high speed connects up with the former rapid transit at Wenningpool. But I don't know, that doesn't feel right. Feels a bit weird building it there. So what I might do instead, not up at Gronwell, which still looks massive by the way. I think Gronwell is probably the biggest station in terms of tracks coming in and out. If I follow, I mean there are a couple of airports already up here, so I'm not going to go along the north coastline, but I'm going to follow this one. Wow, that is severe lag. If I just go left, well actually even going left, up and down seems to go fast, but left and right seems to go slow. And using the mouse doesn't really help. So yeah, I need to find where to build. Wow, that's really laggy. Another airport. So if I follow the high speed line over to here, this could be a good candidate. Because again, we've got another rail connection. This is one of the cross-country lines. So Grundhead Apollonia could be a candidate for an airport as well. I think I'd build the airport on this side. Do we use that dairy farm? I don't think we do. We use the mixed farm. Yeah, don't use the dairy farm. I might move the dairy farm then. And then level all this out. Like so. And build an international airport here as well. which could be upgraded, perhaps to an intercontinental. Alright, and put airport. Okay, so that is probably it for now in terms of building new airports. I did actually have a conversation topic to talk about the 5 airports of London, and I do say 5 because there are 5 airports in and around London, which I think, again, it must have one of the most airport to city ratios in the world. So obviously there's Heathrow, which, as I've already established, is one of the world's biggest. I'm sure it's for passenger traffic, because we only have 2 runways at Heathrow, so it's certainly not the biggest by runways or anything like that. But although 5 terminals, it's also pretty big. And I think, again, the average is there's about a plane every 40 seconds takes off from Heathrow and lands at Heathrow, which is crazy when you think about it. You know, every time you count to 40, a plane takes off or lands at Heathrow. That's insane. I think it used to be 60, and then they managed to bring it down to 40. There are currently plans to extend the runways and build some additional runways to try and help with airport growth, but I have no idea where that lies status-wise, so I mean, don't quote me on it, is what I'm saying. That's the main one. I think the second largest is then Gatwick, which is the largest single runway airport in the world. As the moniker suggests, it only has one runway, and it's the largest of its kind in the world. They have also stated plans to build a second runway, and there is even a plan to link Gatwick and Heathrow up via a high-speed rail link, which I don't personally think is viable. I think that's not going to work, but I could be wrong. We'll see. Then it's, I believe, Stansted is the next biggest. Stansted is also the only one that can really expand fully without causing too much issue, because it's kind of built in the countryside, so there's greenbelt issues of where Stansted is, but I think in terms of feasibility in actually being able to expand, it's the one most likely to happen. Stansted is also a single runway airport. I think it's also got the second longest runways in the UK, because I know during the fuel crisis many years ago now, 747s were redirected sometimes to land at Stansted so that they could refuel and then take off again and fly to Heathrow. So I do remember, I think I was going to Australia, and at one point our flight would have had to have done that. So we'd have taken off from Heathrow, landed at Stansted to refuel, and then flown on to, I think it was Kuala Lumpur we were flying to at the time. So Stansted is pretty big, and again they've stated their intent for wanting to expand and be considered one of London's elite airports, which it already is. You know, you're one of the 5 biggest in the country. You've done all right for yourself. Then we have London Luton, which is the one that is nearest to me. Strange one, Luton, because it's a big airport. It's always under construction, which isn't great. They're always building something to it. I think they were extending the terminals most recently, but it's taken about 10 years to get to the point where we're at now, and it's still not done. So every time I've been to Luton, pretty much in my lifetime, it's been a building site, which I'm not a fan of. That happens a lot around the world, actually. There are lots of airports. It's a bit like Disneyland. They're never finished. They're always being built on. There's always something happening. You know, they're being extended or they're being converted or whatever it might be. Every time I've been to Australia, the airport's been under construction as well. So that's one of the downsides to continuous growth, is you're never finished. You're always having to extend and rebuild, and it must get tiring after a while. It must get tiring. So that's the 4th one. And then finally, we have London City Airport, which is by far the smallest. It also can only take aircraft of certain types. It's to do with their ability to climb. I'm trying to find the British, not the British, the rural ones, I think it is, or the urban. There we go, suburban or rural. That's what I was looking for. I might as well build this metro link whilst I'm talking. So yeah, London City Airport is the one that's currently at risk of closure, so that I think the plan is to convert it into housing, which I don't think is a bad idea. I don't like seeing things closed, but also I don't like seeing things that clearly aren't working. And to me, it feels a lot like London City Airport needs something to change for it to work. I'm trying to build and talk at the same time. We all know how that works. That could very well be a reality. London City Airport might close in the near future, but there are again plans to expand it. I think it actually works really well for people who are trying to get into the city, of which there are millions every day. I do actually think it works as an airport, but it's to do really with the fact that it is in the middle of a busy city. You do have to have specialised aircraft that can go on a certain climb path that can land there, and no other aircraft is allowed to land there, which is a bit of an inconvenience in that respect. So I can kind of understand where campaigners are coming from, and economically speaking, it probably does make more sense to just close City Airport, which is sad, but what can you do? Alright, so I am going to build this this metro connection. I think what I might do is go back to time-lapse mode to build this metro connection. And then we'll end the episode at the end of this. So I'm going to start doing the outro now. Some music might have taken over again. I'm going to try and get this episode up. So I'm currently recording this on Wednesday. I'm going to try and get it up for you guys Thursday. You'll know if it's gone up or not because it will be scheduled to premiere. I'm going to keep trying the premiere. I want it to work. People are sort of showing signs that they also want it to work. I'm not entirely convinced still, but I'm willing to give it a try, because as long as it doesn't take any of my time and resources away, it doesn't really cause any harm to keep trying it. So we'll give it a go still. We'll see. I can't promise anything other than that. So I will be speaking to you guys hopefully tomorrow in the premiere, answering questions that anyone might have, and also talking about what's happening in this episode. For those of you that aren't aware, if you go on the episode plans, you will see that next week we are going to be introducing more trains. The episode is called Suburbanizing, and we're going to be reintroducing trains on the stretch of line between Guards City St George and Honningville via the Great Northern Route, or the Guard City Great Northern Route, and also we'll be reintroducing stopping services between Bartholomew Square and Narfingburg Springs, I believe it is, on the Capital Line. So more new trains coming to the network next week. So until then, guys, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Please, please, please do leave a like if you enjoyed the video, because that is the big campaign at the moment. Is try and get more people to like the content, as in to literally hit the like button, not just to say, hey, that's a good video. You know what I mean. Where was I going with this? Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you're enjoying the series. Drop some comments down below with ideas for future episodes. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for continued support. Enjoy the music, enjoy the time lapse, and until next time, I will see you soon.